So that's, in other words, too, it's getting into what's called the heart mind. So we'll take a moment and do that. Okay. And it could be as simple as, may all beings benefit from this meditation that I'm about to do. May my family benefit. May I benefit. I've had conversations with some people who have said, I really, feel like I really need to work on myself. Yes, yes, absolutely. So may we benefit. So we're going to go into our counting to 7 meditation. Some of us have been learning, but don't worry if you haven't, because I'll guide you through. We'll see if we could get up to the number 7 without getting pulled or distracted. So let's just take it nice and slow. And at first, we check in with our body. Remember our posture, making sure that our spine is nice and tall and the crown of the head is lifting up toward the ceiling. If you're comfortable in sitting in a cross-legged position, you can do that. Your hands could be resting on your knees or your thighs. Your shoulders are relaxed. Your spine is nice and straight. Your tongue is resting on the roof of the mouth. Your mouth could be slightly open. And your eyes are gazing just in front, maybe about, let's say, 7 to 10 inches in front of you. Your eyes are gazing down. So it's almost like they're closed. They're gazing down toward the tip of the nose and then beyond. And we're inhaling and exhaling, finding the breath and feeling the breath moving throughout your body, calming your whole being. And as you find your center, we'll begin to inhale. And then our exhale, we'll hold the breath out a little bit when we exhale and say 1 in our minds. And then inhale. And then exhale. And say 2. And just keep on going like that. We'll start actually from 1, all right? So you're going to really listen to that inhale. So if you feel yourself getting pulled in any way, you're using the breath as an anchor and the number as an anchor. So if you feel that you start to drift, bring yourself right back to that breath and the number. All right, we'll begin. Inhale. And wherever you are, allow yourself to inhale. And then exhale. So we'll bring ourselves back into our space. And sometimes when you start to meditate, you just start learning how to meditate or disciplining yourself to do it. You do short, succinct practices. So you don't have to sit for a very long time. You do it, you get right in there, and then you give yourself a little bit of a break. So even now we could just roll the head a little bit one way and then roll the head the other way. And then bring ourselves back into that nice posture that you had found. And we'll do the counting one more time. Now, if your mind wanders when you're counting up to 7, just bring yourself back to 1. And remember, that's not a punishment. It's just we're paying attention to where our mind is. We're taking up interest without judgment. So we'll start again. Inhale. And then allow ourselves to come back in. And you can give yourself the break. You could roll the shoulders, lift them, and drop them. And we'll get ready to move into our new meditation. So tonight, I've been giving you a meditation that's been a basic calm abiding meditation. This is yet another shamatha meditation, even though it's going to feel very different. But it's actually definitely using reference points as we've been learning. Eventually, we let go of reference points, but this is using reference points, working with mantra. And it's very, very simple mantra, and it's very, very known, actually. This mantra is known in Vajrayana Buddhism. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background. We're going to do the most simplified version of this. Some people who have studied this for a long time have more complex versions, and of course they can do whatever they do inwardly. I'm just going to share with you the most simplified, and maybe we can build on it through the weeks if we come back to this certain meditation. So there are many kinds of meditations as we've been talking about. And this is a meditation that is often, as I said, taught in the Vajrayana tradition. And it's called, and maybe I should write it in the chat, Om. So that's O-M, Ah, that's A-H, and Hung, H-U-N-G. So I'll just write that in the chat. So in case your mind wanders and you're like, oh, because it's new to you. So it's Om Ah Hung. And basically the translation of these Sanskrit words that we're using, these mantras that we're using, translates into body, speech, and mind. And you see what I do here? I point to body. It's you see it coming into the forehead, speech, And so the throat and mind is in the heart. Isn't that beautiful? In the Eastern paths, the mind is the heart. So body, speech, and mind. So it's Om, Ah, Home. Om, Ah, Home. So in this version tonight, what we're going to do is very simple. You're going to breathe in Om. So as you breathe in, the Om is going to come traveling in. And then when you get to the Ah, you hold the breath. And then when you get to the Home, you exhale. So it's inhale, Om, coming toward you. Ah, hold the breath. Home, you exhale. So this is basically what you'll do the whole time and see if the mind can stay with it, just like we were doing with the numbers. So when we inhale, you're saying it to yourself. Inhale, Om. Hold the breath. Ah. Exhale, Home. Inhale. So when you inhale, you're inhaling through the nose, the Om comes in. You hold the breath, that's Ah. And then you exhale, you could even exhale slightly out the mouth. Home. And let that last. Let it dissolve out. You could imagine a light coming toward you. Inhale, Om. You get filled with that light. Ah. Exhale. The light travels out. Home. Okay, so we're going to do this. I'll time us for 5 minutes. Om, inhale. Ah, hold it. Home. Exhale, and let it dissolve out. And we'll begin right now, okay? And we'll inhale. And then exhale. You can give yourself another little stretch. You can circle the head or move the shoulders up and down. And now I'm going to give you one more little piece of this Om Ah Hum. All right. And just like any other meditation, by the way, if your mind wanders, it's okay. Just when you notice it, just be interested, oh, my mind wandered, or oh, thought, or oh, emotion, whatever it is that's happening, you just name it, and then you return yourself right back to your meditation. There's no problem here. This is what the mind does. And I'm going to talk just a little bit when we're done with this next part about the mind based on this book that some of us were just talking about earlier. So let's do this again. And this time, what we're going to imagine as part of our reference point in the meditation is that we are the light that comes into us, that Om Ah Hum, imagining that we are receiving light blessings into our body, our speech, and our mind. So imagine that that light that comes in is blessing you. Your body, speech, and mind, you are receiving enlightened light. And then on your exhale, you're giving it back out to the world. So the people closest to you receive it, and your neighbors in your neighborhood, and then it keeps going further and further. That's your expansion of your exhale. And then inhale. Again, Om Ah Hum. So it's this receiving and giving that's happening, right? So we're going to bring that in now. So we'll do that for about 3 minutes. We'll start now. If your mind wanders, no problem. You just bring it back. So it's inhale, Om, hold, Ah, exhale, Hum, and that light goes out. And we'll bring ourselves back in. Om, Ah, Hum. And when we return, again, you could move your shoulders, whatever it feels good to you to readjust your body and bring yourself right back. And this is a wonderful meditation that you can do anywhere. And you can be driving in the car and just bringing your breath in this three-part way. And it's it's very relaxing, and it's a real key meditation, by the way, that we will build on, and that, as I had mentioned, many of us have been doing for a long time, that leads to other parts of meditations. So I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, let me know. And for those of you tonight who would like to stay on, I'm going to talk a little bit longer than I have been. So if you can't stay on past 8:30, that's totally fine. At this point, what we'll do is dedicate the merit. So we generated bodhicitta, we did our work, our meditation, and then we dedicate the merit at the end every time we are complete with a meditation that we do. So may all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be separate from the joy that knows no sorrow, and abide in equanimity, free from attachment and hatred. Thank you for being here and for being part of the meditation. And for those of you who are interested in doing a little bit of a book reading together, after, a couple of people, this conversation had come up, and I didn't officially announce anything, but there's this very succinct book called The Buddhist Path. And I want to make clear, you do not have to be a Buddhist to take part in this. It's really an amazing book. Yes, it's based on, Buddhist philosophy, but it really is wonderful in understanding meditation and the mind. So I read through the whole book, and I made some notes, and it's a very small book, very succinct, but packed with great information. So if you'd like to stay on, I'll just do a little, I'm going to pull a little bit out. Oh, good night, my dear Yvette. Good night. So nice that you were here. So the first chapter is just basically an introduction about taming the mind. So in this book, Rinpoche, Khenpo Sewang Dangyal Rinpoche, who is part of the monastery upstate, him and his brother wrote this book. They start talking about Dharma. And what is Dharma? We hear this word a lot, and he said, basically, it's what removes ignorance and reveals wisdom. So that's what happens when you study Dharma. You start to remove your ignorance and reveal your wisdom. And he said that we often think that suffering is caused by external forces, and we blame people or circumstances or things. And in Buddhism and in many Eastern paths, what we learn to do is not look out, but look in and notice our habitual patterns and tendencies. And those of you who were on with Dana last night, he really went so beautifully into that. About noticing our patterns and memories and how it creates suffering. So this is what Rinpoche is talking about here. And he talks about how by taming the mind, we begin to understand ourselves and the truth of who we are. And taming the mind means revealing and maintaining our natural state. So basically, what the natural state does is it reveals your heart, which is full of compassion and wisdom and love. So this is what all of this work is that we do, to get to reveal more and more that natural state. The thing is about Buddhism, they say over and over again, it already lives in us. We already have that natural state. It's just been covered by our injuries. and by the ego and by our circumstances. He says that joyful effort is needed to reveal the nature of mind. And he said, and everybody can do it. Even people who have committed crimes or done terrible things, they can still reveal the nature of mind. All it does is takes us to turn the mind and start to look at it. So if we feel like, oh, I'm a greedy person, or, oh, I'm self-centered, I don't really have it in me to care that much about people and have that much compassion, it's in there. It's still in there. It's still in there. All we need to do is start to turn our mind. And he says, yes, an effort, but with joyful effort. And it starts to become more and more apparent to you and to the world. So he repeats again that, often we look in the wrong place for happiness. We look for external joy, but the thing is that never lasts. And he talks about this really, I love this part. He brings in Dzogchen, it's called Dzogchen teachings. So when you follow this path, I'm going to read this actually, because I don't want to put this in my own words. I'll just pull this part out. He says, the mind is the source of both worldly existence and enlightenment, samsara and nirvana. So that's suffering and heaven, that's the mind. Everything needed to find liberation from suffering is contained within the mind. The teachings of Dzogchen, which is translated as the great perfection, are the highest teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni and Guru Padmasambhava, who is also known as Guru Rinpoche, and that's the second Buddha, often referred to as the second Buddha. These teachings have been passed down to us through the Nyingma lineage of Tibetan Buddhism. So he's talking about the lineage that he is, and the one that some of us follow. In the area where I was born in eastern Tibet, before the Chinese invaded, there was a famous Dzogchen master who would travel from village to village and give teachings. His techniques were quite renowned. After teaching the foundation practices, he would tell his students, now it is your responsibility to find your own mind. Go out and find your mind and bring it back to me. Even if the students wanted to stay with him, he would not let them. He insisted they go off for at least 3 days to find their mind. So they went off in various directions. Some went to the mountains, some went to the rivers. Many of his students thought that they had to bring something back. One devoted student found some nice stones near a big river. And among the stones, he found one particularly attractive white stone. He brought the rock back and he told the master that he had found a stone that represented his mind. When the Dzogchen master saw the stone, he grabbed the student by the collar and shouted, "What are you talking about? Are you crazy?" The student felt frightened and confused. And the master said, "This rock is not your mind. Your mind is what is upset." For the first time, the student gained some realization about the mind. Later, the student became a famous master. Merely understanding the mind is not enough. Recognizing it as the source of happiness and suffering is good. But great results come only from looking inward and meditating on the nature of mind. Once you recognize its nature, then you need to meditate with joyful effort. Joyful meditation will actualize the true nature of the mind. And maintaining the mind in this natural state will bring enlightenment. This type of meditation reveals the innermost profound wisdom that is inherent in the mind. So I love that story. and we often hear, where is the mind? Can you hold it? Can you point to it? And it's a good exploration to do and to think about when you meditate. Where is this mind when you're meditating? What exactly is it? And so that's for all of us to sit with. And maybe we can sit with it this week when we meditate, or when we're driving along, contemplating. So he talks again about revealing and maintaining the nature of the mind. And he says, it's like rays of the sun. Compassion, loving kindness, and wisdom become apparent when you reveal and maintain the nature of the mind. And the only way really to reveal and maintain the nature of the mind, maybe not the only way, but one of the most common ways, is through meditation. So we'll stop there. And that's a little introduction into the book. That's the first chapter. They're really succinct. And I just pulled out, highlights from it to share with you. Next, he's going to talk about the causes and conditions of the mind. So we'll talk about that next time we meet. Anybody have?
Was that on, Stephanie? What page was that story on?
I'm sorry. So the story was on page 4, and the chapter ends on page 6. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody have questions or thoughts that they want to jump in and share? I can't say that I'd have answers to anything or everything, but all good? Okay. Okay. All right, everybody. So we didn't really go that far over. That's a good thing. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, rest of the weekend. And yeah, keep up with our meditations. It's wonderful. If you have any questions, you could always reach out and let me know. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, Victor.